The enemy within / inner demon trope is one of the more common tropes in anime, where we have our main character essentially having a split personality, with the main character being one personality, while the other is more tainted / impure. As the name suggests, it's an enemy within you. A good example of the enemy within trope being shown is Bleach, where we learn our main character Ichigo Kurosaki after he seemingly loses to Kenpachi. I briefly talked about this scrap in my analysis on Ichigo vs Kenny, but to put more shine on this first interaction, Zangetsu is supposed to represent Ichigo's purest instincts, with him doing whatever needs to be done to win the battle.
We see Zangetsu really inspiring Ichigo in his fight with Kenpachi, being ruthless in contrast to earlier in the fight where he was terrified to even do anything. This allowed him to overcome the obstacle that was Kenpachi, and we'd see Ichigo relying more on Zangetsu's power when facing Byakuya in his battle. What I genuinely love about this is that Ichigo himself is shown to be this normal guy who genuinely cares about his friends and family and will do whatever it takes to keep them safe. Zangetsu's power allows this to happen, however relying more on his power causes Ichigo himself to change as a human being. We see Ichigo, despite learning how to use Bankai, still needed Zangetsu in the end in order to win. And we get just a foreshadow of what's to come through this fight, seeing how Zangetsu comments on Ichigo's lack of experience and fights Ichigo like a wild beast, whereas Ichigo mainly had a calmer approach and just lets the results of his training carry him through.
We would then see these two go on to interact during the Arrancar invasion arc, where Ichigo is currently trying to get a better control of his hollow mask, that way he has a chance to fight enemies like Grimmjow. Zangetsu suggests to Ichigo that if he wants to be the dominant host of the body, he needs to have that killer instinct within him. And we see the only way Ichigo could defeat Zangetsu is him actually attaining a little bit of that killer instinct. In the first fight with Grimmjow, Ichigo was mainly defending his friends and used everything he could to win, but it wasn't enough. In round 2, the moment Ichigo gets the chance to take his friends to safety, and then he decides to try and fight Grimmjow since he wants revenge, Grimmjow, who's someone who legit fights like a wild animal and is known for being just this man of chaos, calls Ichigo out on this. Ichigo, even after putting on the hollow mask, insists to Orihime to put up her shield just because he and Grimmjow are going to cause collateral damage. And to capitalize on this even more, the fight between Grimmjow and Ichigo was described to be a fight between two Espadas. And I think when talking about Ichigo's inner conflict, we need to talk about Orihime, because she's very important when talking about Ichigo's humanity spiral. She's been friends with Ichigo before all of this happened, so she knows what kind of person Ichigo is, and it's because that's the man that she deep down is in love with. So when we see Hollow Ichigo, she questions if this is even him, but she is reminded that it is thanks to Ichigo going in to save her. However, we still see subtle hints throughout the arc that Orihime does know that Ichigo is just not the same anymore. We see this mainly go down when Ichigo combats Ulquiorra, and Ulquiorra is someone who doesn't really have any comprehension of emotions or humanity, which is a great contrast to Ichigo, who fully represents that, because at the end of the day, he's human. And people will like to say that Ichigo is just sort of a boring character and he's just a normal guy, but in the world of Bleach, that aspect is honestly somewhat beautiful in itself. Ulquiorra couldn't comprehend Ichigo's determination, and we see him actually humble Ichigo and almost damn near kill him. Ulquiorra couldn't comprehend Ichigo's determination, and we see him humble Ichigo and almost kill him. However, when Ichigo emerges into his vassal lord state, we see Ichigo now being able to understand Ulquiorra due to his killer instinct fully consuming him. He's able to mutilate his body, and Uryū tries to stop him so that he can keep his humanity, but Ichigo goes on to stab him instead, scaring Orihime. And this scene is genuinely sad because all Ichigo wants to do is protect her, but in order to try and acquire the strength to do that, he's losing himself, which isn't what Orihime wants. All Ichigo wants to do is just protect her, but luckily Ulquiorra snaps Ichigo out of it, though he lost a leg and an arm. And even after losing the form, Ichigo says to let Ulquiorra cut off his leg and arm so that they can finish their fight fair and square. However, Ulquiorra was already dead, and we see Ichigo frustrated at this. Before Soul Society, Ichigo was the kid who was doing whatever it took to protect his friends and didn't really care about fighting genuinely. The enemy within trope usually has both sides of the party being different and polar opposites, but Bleach essentially made Zangetsu slowly become a part of Ichigo when he technically wasn't even around anymore. Shockingly though, though, Zangetsu isn't dead and would be revealed that he was never really gone, being literally a part of Ichigo while using his Vassal Lord form, which explains why Ichigo hates using it and why it's so destructive in the first place. Zangetsu and Ichigo would fight, with Ichigo trying to learn Getsuga Tensho. He'd eventually learn in order to do this he needs to accept his blade, and so we see Zangetsu being amused at Ichigo figuring it out, and even begins to shed tears, revealing all he wanted to do was deep down keep Ichigo protected. And I know a lot of people are going to find this to be BS and think this simply happened so Ichigo could have a way to beat Aizen. We do see throughout the narrative, and Zangetsu through his own weird lens did help Ichigo, but unfortunately that led into Ichigo becoming someone he never intended to be. And instead of constantly rejecting that side of him, he embraces it and in the end is willing to let his humanity stay with him. Ichigo, despite becoming power hungry, gave up the power he possessed in order to protect his family at the end of the day. And Zangetsu supported that in the end. And we even see later on when he gets his powers back, he would have two swords with one representing Zangetsu while one represents the manifestation, showing that all along Zangetsu was still with Ichigo to the very end. In my opinion, Bleach has one of the best interpretations of this trope, just because we see that these two are technically polar opposites, but then Zangetsu slowly becomes a part of Ichigo. And Ichigo went through this morale spiral just for him to deep down tap into his true nature. And that simply would never have happened had Zangetsu not helped Ichigo out. And thanks Brooke and Ronan for hopping onto the channel. You know, me and Ronan are good buddies. Go ahead and check out his channel if you guys like JJK content. And basically what we are trying to say is Bleach is better than Naruto.